Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video. A bit of a controversial topic, I know, but just hold on for a second. I'm sorry if you see all these like dust floaties. My dog was just like digging under my Christmas tree, so it's really sunny in here. Anyway, just bear with me for a second because maybe this video isn't going to be what you think it is. I want to start off by saying right away in this video, if you have children who believe this video is not for them, please don't watch this video while they are in earshot. This is not a video made for kids or meant for kids in any way, shape, or form, unless they are aware and you maybe approach this topic like we do in our family. All right, so with that out of the way, let's address today's video. I've been asked to share my thoughts on this. I did this a long time ago, years and years and years ago. Probably a good 6 years ago we talked about this. But again, it's been a long time and I've been asked to talk about this again several times, so I figured I would do that today, and that is the truth about Santa and how we handle this in our family. But the key here being without ruining the magic of Christmas. I firmly believe that you can have the best of both worlds. You can have magical Christmas and you can also have children knowing the truth about Santa. I also want to just say here, if you choose to tell your kids that Santa is real, this is no judgment at all. I don't have any judgment towards you. So I know this can be kind of a hot button topic, so please just extend the same courtesy towards me and be kind. I am enormously pregnant and probably a little spicier or more sensitive now. So please just be nice in my comment section if you disagree, or if this topic is just like definitely not for you, or it's gonna spark some inner rage, then maybe this video is not for you. In this video, I'm going to share my thoughts and how we've approached it over the years. We've been parenting for over 12 years now, so we're not in the little kid stage anymore. We've gone past that, and so I feel like my perspective on this maybe is beneficial, because it's not like, oh, we've decided to tell our 3-year-olds that Santa isn't real and we don't know what that will look like in the long run, whereas I've had the long run now and I can see what our decision has done through many years of parenting, if that makes sense. So I feel like maybe this is an okay thing for me to talk about from my perspective. So I'm going to share with you guys kind of how we came to this decision long ago, why we chose to do this the way we did. I'm going to share a really amazing book resource that I love and can't recommend enough to share with your children in this video. And I'm just going to cover some different topics that like were points of concern or things to consider for us when we decided what to do in this situation and how we wanted to handle it in our family going forward. I feel like there's not a lot of videos on this topic, and they're either really like, of course you should not ruin the magic of Christmas and you should absolutely tell your kids that Santa is real, or they're like, if you don't like tell your kids the truth, you're terrible, and here it's very like doom and gloom and weird and icky feeling. So I feel like this is going to be like a nice neutral middle because we are huge Christmas people. If you are new to my channel, then maybe you don't know that, but we decorate on November 1st every year. Christmas is just enormous. We spread it out because we love the magic and we love the joy, and I love the magic and the joy, and I want to experience it right alongside my kids. So we like to spread our holiday season out, and we do so many things. Like, the magic of Christmas is alive and well in our hearts and is so important for us. So I'm definitely not like a gloom and doom kind of person when it comes to this topic. Okay, so now that hopefully we're kind of all on the same page, let's dive into talking about this. And let's start with the whole lying thing. This is obviously the big talking point of this topic, is, are we lying to our kids or are we not lying to our kids? Is it harmful? Is it not? And that's a decision everybody needs to make for themselves, obviously. Do I think that you're going to mess up your kid if you tell them that Santa is real? Of course not. Do I think you're going to mess up your kid if you tell them the truth of Santa either? Of course not. I feel like there is balance within this thing. Lying is a harsh word, but at the root of it, it is a form of lying. But I don't think that it means that it's bad to tell your kids that Santa is real. In our family, obviously, if I haven't said this, we choose to tell our kids that Santa is not real. Our kids have grown up knowing that Santa is not a real person, that he is an embodiment, that he is a character of Christmas, and they've known this since they could speak. It is nothing we sat them down and told them, oh, you know, Santa is not real, and we had this big conversation. It is small steps we took to integrate this idea from a very young age, while also being really delicate about like how you handle this with other kids, which I'm going to talk about later in this video, because it's always a question I get, like, what if your kids tell so-and-so, or like, so we're going to address that too. So for us, that was a factor. Did we want to lie to our kids every single year that Santa is this real thing, and did we want to back up that lie with more lies? When questions arose, how does Santa get into our house if we don't have a fireplace? Why is there so many different Santas at the mall? Why do they all look different? Blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm not going to over-explain this too much, because I know you are an intelligent person. And I feel like sometimes YouTube videos, they over-explain way too much. So the lying thing was definitely a factor in our decision. Did we want to lie to our kids? We choose a gentle, attached parenting approach in our parenting life, but we're also like really having a very honest, open relationship and home with our children is super important to us. Telling our kids the truth about Santa really meshed well with the way we parent in every other aspect of our parenting. And it was really just a matter of, how do we want to approach this? How do we want to tell them the truth without ruining that magic? How do you keep the magic alive if they know the truth? Can you do that? And so those were things that we really started exploring and decide before we made our decision on what to do. I firmly believe that children, and we're proof of this because this is what our children believe, that you can believe in the idea of Santa, in the magic of Santa Claus, without believing that he is a real person that exists in the world. And that is the balance we found that works for us. And I'm going to explain how we did that. But I think that is an important distinction. Something else that played into our decision is critical thinking. Critical thinking is incredibly important for children. It's a very important life skill that children need to learn. It's something that can be fostered and taught, and you can help your kids grow in critical thinking and learn how to think critically. And I didn't want to squash that every year. I didn't want to all the other times of the year I'm like, you know, promoting critical thinking and helping them think critically. We're homeschoolers, helping them investigate things when they have questions. I didn't want to dismiss that every single year when the holidays rolled around. That didn't feel authentic to me. That didn't feel right. It just felt kind of icky for us. So I was like, how can I balance this? And there's got to be a better way. And like I said, we love the magic and we love the wonder and we love Santa. It's very important to us in our family. We have so many traditions. Like, again, if you are not new to the space, that you know I'm Mrs. Christmas. Like, it's a big deal in our family. So we all play the Santa game. All of us. The kids are in on it too, though. We approach it more as playing the Santa game as if we would play any other game of pretend. So, you know, when your kids are little and you start playing pretend with them, you have tea parties, you know, you pretend you're knights guarding your castle, you know, when they're little, and that pretend play is just so rampant and so involved and so deep. That is our main approach. How we decided to do this was teach that Santa was like a game of pretend, like anything else. And so what that looked like over the years, we maybe were able to implement this younger than some people might find it easy. But again, I don't know if that's just like our parenting approach or why it was easier for us to implement this younger. But our daughter has known about the truth about Santa since about 2 or 3 years old. And we have never had an incident where she has just gone and told kids they're wrong or that Santa's not real or anything like that. And we've had a second child and we're on our third child. We've never had that incident in our family ever. It's never happened. I know that's always a huge concern when talking about this topic. People always have that question for me, so I just want to put that out there. And I will talk about that in a second. So, but I know that that's probably a point of concern when telling a child as young as 2 and 3 that Santa is not actually a real person. So what we did was, when our daughter was learning to speak, like she had both our kids, I say our daughter because she was our first, so I'm just like referencing our first child because she's really like the child we made this decision about and then stuck with it. Our kids spoke in full sentences and everything quite early. They had very good understanding, and I contribute that hugely to the fact that we did baby sign language and we taught them sign language first before they had the ability to speak. My kids were signing by 6 months old. And so I was actually able to use sign language to really get ideas across more deeply to my toddler. So what that looked like, bear with me, I know maybe that sounds weird. But when we would play games of pretend, so I would actively play with my kids when they're little, you know, like they don't really need me much anymore and want to play with me. But when they were little, obviously we'd have tea parties, we'd build forts, we'd pretend we were, there was a dragon guarding, you know, how you play with kids. And so I would always reference like, yes, let's play a game of pretend. And we would sign, you know, pretend. So she knew every time we would be actively involved in pretend play, we would sign it, we would reinforce pretend that this is like, and so she started to grasp the concept of pretend really early, and she had a really firm grasp on it. And so when Santa came around, we weren't sitting her down and being like, Santa is pretend, like, but we did sit down when she started being like, she would question it naturally. We talk about Santa coming down the chimney and stuff, and she would be like, is this real or is this pretend? Reminds me of Hunger Games and PETA being like, real or not real. And so we reinforced that idea with like when she had a Santa question or she'd see Santa at the mall, we would just answer her questions. Like, she'd be like, pretend, like this is a game of pretend, right? Yes, and we would confirm that. Yeah, it is a game of pretend. But you get to play too, and we all play. Everybody plays this big game of pretend. And I think it helped her because, you know, like the kids are not stupid. That's the thing. Kids are not stupid. Kids are so smart, and kids can absolutely handle these kinds of ideas and these levels of topics. I think as long as the information is presented in a gentle way that they will understand, it's not hard for them to grasp it, and they're like, oh, okay, cool, and they move on. So once our daughter was a little bit older, we were able to tell her, you know, like some people say Santa is real. Some people tell their kids that Santa is a real person. And there was like a solid chunk of time when she was, you know, in that, you know, 3-4 age, where she would confirm with us all the time. She'd be like, so Santa, she'd see something on TV, right? Like, but he's not real. He's just a pretend person. Yes, Santa is an idea. We wear costumes, and we would like reinforce what we had taught her and talked about. So she would see Santa in the mall. So Santa is real. Santa's right there, but it's a game of pretend. He's playing pretend. He's pretending to be Santa. Yes, and we are all playing the game that he is Santa today. So we would reinforce that when she was young and just answer all of her questions. And so she really got to explore that idea. And again, we never had any issues with the understanding. And obviously as they get older, and because we were always there to answer her questions, she knew to come to us for the questions. She knew to ask us. And then when like adults, like our family didn't really know or approve that we were teaching our young child that Santa was not a real person. So we would have family and they'd be like, oh, Santa's coming, are you excited? And she'd be like, yes, I'm so excited that Santa's coming. And she'd look at us and be like, yep, Santa's coming, you know? So she knew that she was in on this game, that she was in on the secret. And that was really, really flawless, honestly, and very easy to do. And again, we did it with my son, and it was the same experience. It was different, obviously, because they're different children, but it wasn't any more difficult to explain this. So I just want to kind of show you, or try and explain to you, like how that worked through the years. And then as our kids got older, you know, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't something we had to talk about all the time. They knew Santa was this big game of pretend we play. Like, we put all of the gifts under the tree addressed to from Santa because we all are playing this big game of pretend. Our kids know, and then they ask, like, so the presents, you buy the presents, and we all pretend they're from Santa. Yes. And oh, it's from Santa Claus, and they're all like, hee, and they're all excited for Santa, and we play this big Santa game. It's never taken away the magic because we're all playing this wonderful game of pretend. My kids still go outside. My kids are 12 and 8, and they still go outside on Christmas Eve, and they're like, oh, did you hear? Maybe those are sleigh bells. Santa's coming. Do you see him in the sky? Like, they love it so much, even though they know the truth. And it has not affected their ability to like experience magic at all. If anything, I think it has made the magic last longer because my oldest is 12 and going into teen years, and she's still like so down for the magic of Christmas. Because it's never been something that's like, oh, I'm too old to believe in Santa. She's like, we're all believing in Santa. Like, the whole world plays this big game of Santa. Like, nobody is too old for it. And it keeps it so fun. So that's kind of what Santa looked like through the years for us, when we just, you know, kept it age appropriate explanations. But just really, really honest and truthful and answering any question she came with. And also we explained that like some kids are told that Santa is a real person. So you can come ask us questions, and you can come talk to us. But if another kid says Santa is real, then we just play the game. And then you can come talk to us if you have a question. And that worked for us. That was never an issue. We never had a problem doing it that way. So before I go on and talk more about that, I want to share this wonderful book that really helped explain the idea behind Santa for both my kids, and how Santa is the magic of Christmas. Santa is the figurehead of, sorry, that sun has moved. So for me, I really wanted a resource to help explain to the kids and just reiterate that Santa is this embodiment of magic. Santa is the figurehead of Christmas. He is the idea of all of the joyful feelings that we feel at Christmas time. We call it Santa, and we're all part of that game. And so I found this book, and it was like one of the best resources. Again, I will share it in the description box below. It's an Amazon link. I got this on Amazon. It's called The Wonderful Truth About Santa, and it is a beautiful book that explains the origin of Santa Claus, the origin of Saint Nicholas, and it explains the story of Saint Nicholas and how Saint Nicholas was like wanting to, this is a completely secular book, by the way, about just like the kindness and the generosity of Saint Nicholas and what he did for the hearts of people, and eventually how that spread because that good feeling and that sharing of fortunes was able to be passed around, and everybody wanted it to be this special little anonymous secret. And so kind of that's how the legend of Santa began. And it talks about how parents really value the idea of the spirit of giving, and we need to teach our children about the spirit of giving. And so Santa was a really great opportunity to teach your kid about the spirit of giving. Now you can use this book for like, if you're ready to sit down and tell your kids the truth about Santa, this would be honestly a really, really great resource. But also this is awesome if you don't want to start with the whole Santa's a real dude kind of thing. So anyway, it talks about how like Saint Nicholas refused to take credit, and like, so we created Santa, and then it talks about who is Santa. So it talks about like how we're all Santa. If you're giving and you are being kind and spreading joy, you are Santa. Everybody gets to be Santa at the holidays. It follows this boy asking his grandpa about if Santa is real, and talking about how he has his own personal Santa, which would be his parents. And it talks about the feeling they feel when they get up in the morning on Christmas and they see the presents left under the tree from Santa, and that feeling of joy they get is that spark of holiday spirit that they can now share with others. And so it talks about how that you as a child can be Santa as well for other people now. You're in on the big secret, you're in on the game, and you get to spread that Christmas joy to others too. So this book is a huge, just amazing resource. I can't recommend it enough. I've recommended this as many times as this topic has come up, but again, it's not an expensive book at all. I don't know, I've never seen it in stores, but it is on Amazon. So I will put that link in the description below. If you have found it in a store and you know this book, then feel free to comment and put it in the comments below so somebody else looking might be able to find it in person. Okay, so quickly, I just want to kind of like wrap up some other points that we had with sharing the truth about Santa with our kids. Another part we didn't like, obviously, you guys know, if you're following my channel at all, then you know we do respectful parenting, like connected parenting, attached parenting. You know, there's so many different labels for it, but that's nothing new. We've always parented this way. So there is this form of like what I view as problematic parenting that comes along with Santa, that we didn't want anything to do with. And that I have, like, it's probably my biggest issue with like the whole telling your kids Santa is real, because it comes with this, not that you have to practice this, not that everybody does, but it comes with this socially acceptable amount of problematic parenting where Santa is used to control behavior. And that really goes against everything we wanted to teach about the holidays and about Santa, because Santa is kindness. Santa is meant to be generosity. Santa is, you know, meant to be generosity of spirit. And being like, well, if you're naughty, then Santa's not going to give you presents. And there's so many things. We've all seen the freaking memes and TikToks and whatever about like, wrap empty cardboard boxes, and every time your kid's bad, throw one in the fire. Like, there's a lot of problematic parenting surrounding the whole Santa thing. Elf on the Shelf plays into that as well. We participate in that, but we use kindness elves, and it's different for us. We just tweak it. We just tweak it to work for our family. So we just did not want to participate in that kind of parenting. And it's funny because it's like all over. It's like culturally acceptable over here to like just be like, oh, you better behave. Santa's not going to come if you don't behave. Oh, be nice to your mom, young lady. Santa won't give you presents if you're like scowling. Like, it's just so bizarre to me. And we just were not interested in participating with that. And it just went against our normal everyday parenting. So we didn't want to make the exception for the holiday to do something that went against what we do all the time. There's also another really good perk to this, telling the kids the truth, that we have discovered over the years, and that is gifts and cost and understanding value. So with our kids, they understand that we purchase every single gift that they get, and they understand our kids are incredibly grateful. If you've seen our gift hauls, and like I've talked about already of what I got my kids for Christmas is out, we enjoy spoiling our kids at Christmas, but our kids also fully understand how expensive that is and how hard Dad and I have to work to make Christmas happen every year. And you know, what we save and things like that. It opens up this whole conversation of healthy conversations around money and things like that. Also, we are then able to, like, we've had Christmases where we, you know, weren't as fortunate. We started out pretty broke, and fortunately now we're in a different position. But there have been Christmases where like my husband was laid off for almost a year, and you know, being able to be like, listen, this Christmas is going to be a little smaller than you're used to because we don't have a lot of money this year. And like, there was just no, they were so understanding and we could explain that when they were young, and they got it because they knew. I feel like it also addresses this important fact that I think, I've seen a lot of parents run into when, you know, a rich kid gets this loaded Christmas and, you know, the poor kid doesn't, and they all go to school and they mingle and they're like, oh, why did Billy get an Xbox or the new PS5? And because he asked that from Santa. I wanted that, but Santa didn't bring that to me. Was I bad this year? Was I not behave? So like, it really eliminates that entire thing when they know the truth. And I find that helpful. Depending on like what your family is like, that could be a really strong point, or it could maybe not matter as much for you. But that is something that is a consideration for sure. Okay, and so this telling the other kids, what happens if you tell your kid that Santa Claus is not real and then they go and tell other kids? So I have 2 points in this. Don't hate me, because the first point is maybe not a popular one. But at the very end of the day, don't get me wrong here. Don't misunderstand me. At the very end of the day, what you teach in your family doesn't affect what I teach in my family. And, you know, like what we teach our kids in our household is ours to do with as we please. And so if you teach your kid that, we're under the belief that it's like, as my husband would say, it's not really our problem. And he's right. At the end of the day, that is the truth. It is not our responsibility to maintain a lie that you decided to tell your kids. However, there is a level of empathy here that needs to be considered. So at the very blunt of it, I don't think it's anybody's responsibility to maintain whatever you are teaching your children in your own home. Like that wouldn't make sense for any other topic. So at the end of the day, you're gonna have to be prepared to back that up as a parent, because they're gonna hear it from, it's not gonna come from my kids, but it might come from some other little kid whose kids did teach them that Santa was real. But you know what I mean? Like anything can happen. But you can't put that responsibility on the individual families, because that wouldn't be fair. It is your responsibility as the parent to either be able to back up the lie, or and have a plan for those questions when they come up, or those situations. You know what I'm saying? But I personally think there is a level of empathy, and that is what I've taught my children. So we've taught them that some children are told that this is the truth. And even though we don't agree with it, my kids really, really hate the fact that some children have been told that Santa is real. Like, they are so offended for those kids. It's a big topic every Christmas. They still talk about it with me. It's still a conversation that comes up, and we use it as a learning opportunity. So even though my kids are passionately against the fact that parents tell their kids that Santa is real, they would never tell the child or any of their friends or children that Santa is not real, because they understand, and we have taught them that what other people do in their families is not our business, and it is not our business to go and correct them or force them or try and enforce them to believe anything differently than what they believe, because that would cover so many other categories in life, you know, religion, other belief systems, you know, politics, it goes on and on. So we don't really we've just taught them that Santa's kind of no different. Not your monkeys, not your circus. You mind your business. And you don't have to believe that, but some families do, and that's okay. And that's their choice. And they've been like, well, what happens when their kids find out that Santa's not real? And we've just explained, like, that's going to be a conversation they have in their own family, and they're going to have a plan for that, but it's not our place to say anything. It is our place to enjoy our holiday season, and we play the game. And so when we come across children who are believing that it is real, we just play the game, because you know the secret, you're in on it, and you get the opportunity to play that game for that child. So that's how we have dealt with it. So as much as, like, I know I might have lost some people when I was like, not our problem, because technically it's true. It's not our responsibility to like hold up whatever you tell your kids at the end of the day. But that's not what we teach our kids to do. And so that's how we've dealt with that. Because I know that's always a question. They're like, hey, but how do I make sure that my kid, I want to tell my kid the truth, but how do I make sure they don't spoil it for everybody or whatever? Open conversation, open communication, just like you would any other thing. I really find it's not too different. Okay, and with that, I'm going to stop talking at you, because I could go on and on. We all know this. I hope you enjoyed. How is there a fly in my house? Get out of here. I hope this conversation came off as a good one. I know these videos can some people just choose to take really hot topic seating on this and just really go hard into whatever they believe. But I feel like there is space for neutrality here. there is space for the best of both worlds, that your kids, and where our family is proof of that, like your kids can still hardcore believe in the magic and the spirit of Christmas without thinking that Santa is a real person that is going to show up on Christmas Eve and break into your house. So there's balance there, and if you choose to move away from, maybe you started with telling your kids that Santa is real and you would like to move away from that because it maybe feels weird, or you're reconsidering that, it's okay. There's never a bad time to have these conversations, and things like this book are really great ways to kind of get your foot in the door gently without being like, hey kids, Santa's not real, I'm gonna crush your childhood. Like, it doesn't have to be that all or nothing situation. Yeah, so I hope this was helpful. Again, if it's not for you, that's fine. You don't have to take it. You know, everything I say can be taken with a grain of salt. Take what you like, leave what you don't, as with anything else in life. So I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all have a very warm Christmas season. If you would like to discuss this with me down below, maybe you're considering telling your kids, maybe you wanted to share your story about how you handle this in your family. As long as it's kind, I'm happy to hear it. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in my next one. Bye, you guys.